Black people have thin skulls because we're the only humans on the planet. It is a scientific fact that only Africans are 100% human beings. All non-Africans are only 96% human being and 4% Neanderthal. Now, why is this important? Neanderthals have thicker skulls. So it is literally more difficult and nearly impossible for Caucasians to download and impute information. This is why they some irrational motherfuckers. This is why you might be like, why would you blow that up, white man? I don't know. This is where the saying comes, you Neanderthal, and it's equated with being a fool. So the fact that Europeans have a more denser bone mass makes them actually less intelligent. So we can scientifically prove that since the white man is on an anatomy level, on a skeletal level, more dense than us, he's disqualified from being our authoritarians.
Eric Van Dinken, he wrote this little book called Chariots of the Gods some years ago, and he attributed the pyramids to some beings from outer space.
They would have had to been in a ship.
Now we fought him on that naturally because we said, here they go again. Rather than give the black man and woman credit, this cracker would rather say that it came from some beings from outer space. The name of the book is called Chariots of the Gods, and the author's name is Eric Van Dinken. What is your thoughts on that?
You know, I've actually never heard of that, brother, or that book. I would have to agree to a certain extent, because when it comes to the construction of the pyramids, I can prove that not only was extraterrestrials involved, we were involved too, and giants were involved.
And see who he's with, and then we can come to the conclusion that it's some pseudo bullshit if they are all in the same line. You got Zechariah Sitchin, Anunnakis. You got Credo Mutwa, reptilians. You got Graham Hancock, the Orient and the pyramids theory. You got Klaus Donner, the same guy with the Orion and the stars aligning with the pyramids that I'm going to get into. You got Michael Cremo, the dude who Pharaoh brought up in the video, who created.
So with that being said, have you ever read this book? That book is pseudo. It's pseudo. That's your opinion. Have you ever read the book? Yes, I've read it. It's pseudo.
That's from a pre-debate with Amen Ra Square. Dr. Maat.
He believes giants built the pyramids. He believes in giants.
This is a medallion found in the tomb of a pharaoh with a giant-ass UFO on it. Do you see that UFO? Do everybody see that? Oh, you got it. Goodbye. Okay, now point number two.
Yeah.
Now, if you look up the etymology of the word cartouche, it comes back to an Italian word, which means grocery bags. Egyptians didn't have grocery bags, stupid bitch. So why would they write their name on a grocery bag? But you niggas don't do no research. You just run your fucking mouth and slander all day. But don't worry, because I'm here to whoopsie your ass right up out of there. Don't worry. Pseudo. Let's go to pseudo, bitch.
Well, this is on the roof. Now, this is called a cartouche. You hear Egyptologists always talk about cartouche, French word. It means bag of holding or grocery bag. Well, actually, it's a knot of the palace. An Egyptologist will tell you that a king's name was inscribed. And that's another one that needs to be flushed down the toilet. Because these people would never have put their common names up on the walls.
For the audience to learn the cartouche and how to properly read the cartouche, because that's one of the most easiest things and most readily available things.
Well, the first thing is not called the cartouche.
No, it's
not. That's the French. So it's called a chino.
All right, well, y'all can do the honors on that. I'm going to mute my mic, Kalama, Brother Reggie, and I'll just let my cursor follow your words.
The cartouche it comes from a French word for, I guess, bullet. And so the French called the name basically a cartouche. And it is basically what we know as a chino. It represents usually a name.
Yeah, so, let me add to that, just real quick. Cartouche means cartridge, not bullet.
Ones here that could have done it, that tried
again in my book is more detailed. The ancient civilization I'm talking about had an ancient river, which we call the Nil, which was named by a German. And there he is, Abdel Hakim himself. This is at a site where unfortunately we don't take tourists anymore. As things with tours, they compress to where the sites they can take you. We used to go there. This is at Memphis, which was the capital of dynastic Egypt. He's pointing to Het Kapata, right here, where the word Egyptos, Egypt, comes from. And it only represented this one area, this one site, Memphis, Menefer in the ancient language. Next. Now, Per'ah, where does Per'ah come from? And this is at the temple of Hathor Dendara, which was discussed earlier. David showed the wonderful slides of the crypts at Dendara. Well, this is on the roof. Now, this is called a cartouche. You hear Egyptologists always talk about cartouche, French word. It means bag of holding or grocery bag. Well, actually, it's a knot of papyrus where Egyptologists will tell you that a king's name was inscribed. And that's another one that needs to be flushed down the toilet. Because these people would never have put their common names up on the walls for anybody to see. These were titles. Again, 5. Where are we going? Back to back, back. 5. Again, 5. Each king of Egypt had 5 titles. 5 different titles. So what's in here is usually a family name. And it's usually the woman's name. And here it is. Per-ah. And it's at the goddess's temple, the female Netter, and there she is. This is the glyph of Hathor, the house of Horus, or Hiru, which was not a sun god. Hiru meant the boy that becomes a man when he becomes enlightened by the woman.
Well, if the spiritual created the physical, what created the spiritual? Don't worry, because I always do my research. This right here is what you call the point of creation. This right here is what science calls a plasmic wormhole. This is just the womb of the universe. If you look at it, it kind of looks like a womb still. Plasmic wormholes are actually where souls come from. So, you have plasmic wormhole, which is one of the most electrical points in the universe. This is where the Creator, God, Allah, Jehovah, Buddha, Cookie Monster, whoever you believe in, this is where they exist. And you are an extension of that. And this is where you actually become broken off. So, to give you an analogy, imagine this is a fire, a piece of flame out here. This is a flame, and then it sparks you off. Your soul is that spark that's now traveling to the galaxy to reincarnate and have a physical experience. And then upon death, if you don't have to reincarnate, then you have vibrated high enough to return to your soul. Soul leaves out of there and it travels along these magnetic fields, because remember, you're just an electrical current, and as it's traveling, it's going through galaxies, Milky Ways, stars, suns, Earth. The sun is a portal and each star is a portal. So if you want to go to the, let's say, the 19th galaxy, you got to go through the sun.
So evil is anything that's not natural. GMO is unnatural. Apple is natural. That's evil. That's good. Man, woman, yes. Man, no. It's that simple. Rape, nope, ain't supposed to do it. She's not into it. Evil is not how. You don't gotta be rocket scientist to know. All you gotta do is say, is this natural? You want me to smoke that cigarette? That'll grow on a tree. That's not natural. So if you want to distinguish anything that's evil, say it's natural. No. Who it is? You're not supposed to rule. You're not supposed to my president. Donald Trump, you're GMO, you're not natural. Here, that's evil. Everything you want is evil because it's not what the creator intended to be the experience. Out to King's Chamber of the Pyramid that lines up exactly with Orion's belt. So when niggas want to talk about planet risk and the three suns is Orion's belt. And actually, with this, because the pyramids is made out of granite, and granite conducts photons and electricity, and it amplifies it. Plus the acoustic material that the room is made out of amplifies it. And then they tell you that the pharaohs was buried in sarcophaguses. Those were not coffins. Those were meditation chambers, also made out of acoustics. So what they did was they lined the goddamn meditation chamber up exactly 45 degrees with the little narrow passway that the photons emitted by all three stars, lined up with, and all of the narrow rays of light, all three of those become one. Once they pass through the little passageway, I gotta get the name of it again, but once they pass through the passageway, and when you in the meditation chamber, it hits you directly in your pineal gland, and you can project your consciousness through the goddamn gold capstone of the pyramid to the 19th galaxy. If you don't believe me, I really don't give a fuck, because it's the truth. Now with that being said, I'm not here for your opinion. If you're dealing with niggas' opinions, keep on, nigga. Planet. Be the authoritarian of black people, period.
Me being able to pronounce this correctly has no bearing on whether I can read the text or not. And so this is what you got to understand when we're talking about decipherment. Decipherment, all it means is to understand a text and being able to translate it or relate it in normal language. We already did that. And pronunciation is a totally separate issue. And so Sarah Sutanseti and Pharaoh got pronunciation and decipherment mixed up. So when you watch their video, pay attention. All they're going to talk about is pronunciation. No Egyptologist argues that you could pronunciate ancient Egyptian words. But everyone agrees that it has been deciphered, which makes this debate ultimately a silly debate. But it was brought to our attention, and in true fashion, Amen-Ra Squad showed up, and we showed out. On this next leg, I wanted to address another issue. They tried to say that all we get our information from is from Europeans on the decipher. They have no clue that there are Africans who wake up in the morning dealing with the ancient Egyptian texts verifying it and correcting where Europeans may have gone wrong in decipherment, translation, and or pronunciation. There were others before the people that are listed on this particular slide here, but these is the serious study of Mdw Ntr starts with these individuals. So Sheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Theophilo Obenga, Dr. Jacob Carruthers, and Dr. Djehuti Maat. This is the first generation of serious Mdw Ntr scholars and interpreters of text and scholarship in the African world. And so Theophilo Obenga and Sheikh Anta Diop on the continent of Africa, Dr. Jacob Carruthers and Dr. Djehuti Maat here in the United States. Then there's a second generation of scholars that belong to what we call the Diop school. And I'm just going to list a few of them right now. This here is Abu Bakr Musalam. The text that you see here is the past of the now, the relations between ancient Egyptian and Black Africa, the affair of the royal mummies, the truth of Queen Amenis Nefertari, which is a book on the right. A lot of us who make arguments over here are monolingual speakers, meaning the only language that we know is English. If they were able to understand and or read French, hopefully they would have come across these scholars who I'm going to name, because these are scholars that have expanded our knowledge on the ancient Egyptian culture and religion, and they ground themselves in African culture and language, which allows them to go in and assess whether Europeans from the past or not have deciphered the text correctly or not. The next one is Babakar Saul, and this is the Ethiopian roots of ancient Egypt, this book here, prefaced by Dr. Theophilo Obenga. This brother here, Mdu Ntr Ra, is actually an African American, but he studied under Theophilo Obenga. He's still part of that second generation. This is his book that he wrote, Let the Ancestors Speak. Both Sunjeti Mdu Ntr Ra and Asar Imhotep of the Amen Ra squad were taught directly by this man. Brother Wujawu was taught directly by Dr. Djehuti Maat. We're part of a lineage here. This is another one of the second generation, and this is another one of my personal teachers. And this is Dr. Mubabinge Bololo out of the Congo, who's an actual prince of a royal lineage of Congo, whose ancestors claim that they come from the Nile Valley. This is a book that he wrote towards a dictionary, or I should correctly translate it in English, towards a Egyptian, Coptic, and Luba dictionary. And this is to answer the notion that there's no Africans, one, dealing with the script, and he has other works that just strictly deal with the scripts and its pronunciation, but more so specifically that there's no Africans dealing with the vocabulary or whatnot, and we have entire dictionaries, and this is only a portion of a larger dictionary that he's working on. And so he's still alive today, still doing his thing. He lives in Belgium. But this is Dr. Mubabinge Bololo. Of course, you know, after the second generation, there's a third generation. So this is me, a brother Asar Imhotep, and this is my latest book, Nesubiti, King and Ancient Egyptian, A Lesson in Paronymy and Leadership, which has been vetted by numerous African scholars on the continent before publishing, including my teacher. This is another part of the third generation. This is brother Jean-Claude Mboli of the Diop school, who has written the book, The Origin of African Languages in French, where he has reconstructed Negro Egyptian, which was first proposed by Theophilo Obenga in his 1993 work. And he's just done an amazing job. And if you haven't had a chance to review the interviews that I've done with him on my channel, I encourage you all to, to listen to this brother and to take notes on the Egyptian language and its relationship to other Black African languages. this brother here is very important, Dr. Emmanuel Bitong, because of what he's holding in his hand right in the center. In the center here is Dr. Bitong in the all white. This is after him defending his PhD dissertation. And he's out of Cameroon. And I bring him up on this slide because there are individuals claiming that, you know, these so-called esoteric aspects are absent from our discussions on Mdw Ntr and from the public at large, which is a bunch of BS. And this brother's entire dissertation is about basically the esoteric aspects of the Mdw Ntr writing script. And so, in short, the thesis is an attempt to define the emergence and development of the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic writing in an African context, specifically comparing the development of writing and its use to that of the Bassa in Cameroon. The Bassa are another group of people whose oral tradition claims that they come from ancient Egypt. They're a Bantu-speaking group that lives in Cameroon. Another topic for another day. I'll just read the dissertation topic. I'm not sure if y'all can read it, if y'all can read French or whatnot, but it says the generation and elaboration of writing and its basically illumination of the concepts and experience of two African peoples. The case of the Mdw Ntr of the ancient Egyptians and of Bibanga of the Bassa of Cameroon. So the whole script, the whole topic is dealing with the ancient Egyptian writing script and its development. So he says specifically, the thesis focuses on the development of the hieroglyphs as a semiotic script that acts as an interpreter for divine words accessed in dreams and in divination oracular ceremonies. From this early usage, the signs were later used to write the everyday language, but retain within their form a semiotic function, in particular in relation to the determinatives, which are not an element of phonetic languages. Central to the thesis is the idea that language emerged as a sacred form of communication and not as a way of organizing the administration, as is often argued for early language development in ancient Egypt. If you don't read French, if you only speak English, you will not come across these texts. You need to know about these African scholars who are making major strides in Egyptology. And so this should be familiar for anybody who, like I, are practitioners of the Ifa tradition of the Yoruba people, because the concept of Odu and Mdw are the same. They are the same word in the Yoruba language without the M prefix. Odus and Mdws are the same. And so the signs and symbols that were dropped for the Mdw or the Odu is what became the ancient Egyptian language. But that's another topic for another day. This one is important here because, again, they want to say that we get all our information from Europeans, and that no information came from the Africans, especially the ancient Egyptians. Well, that's a bunch of BS as well. This individual here, Dr. Kipkoech Sambu, has written two texts. One is called The Missouri Legend Explored, and the other, cannot think of it, is The Collagen People's Egypt Origin Legend Revisited. Was Isis Assis. Dr. Kipkoech Sambu, got his degree in Egyptology in South Africa and is especially as a Coptologist. But more importantly, he's of the Collagen people of East Africa who live in Sudan, parts of the Congo, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Their oral tradition argues that they came from ancient Egypt. And due to wars and things of that nature during the time of the Greeks, it forced them to migrate through the Sudan and now into their current places, which I mentioned earlier. And so here's just another picture of the Collagen people of Kenya, more specifically. This is a photo on the left-hand side of a Nandi warrior. And the Nandi are a subgroup of the Collagen. The Collagen is a new name for these people here. And so you can see these correspondences even, you know, today. Like this image on the left comes from a book, The Nandi, Their Language and Folklore. You can still see the same hairstyles that they wore in ancient Egypt. The Collagen was a warrior class, and the warrior classes came from nomadic pastoralists. These groups are nomadic pastoralists. This is even though this aren't the Collagen, this is from Cushitic speakers, the Tutsis. You can still see amongst these groups the same headgear. So when you see these ancient Egyptians with the so-called Nimis crown, it's not a crown, it's just a head cloth. And so this is how they stylistically, if you can see the arrow on the screen, when they carve it in stone or wood. But I'm showing you these slides because I want y'all to understand that a lot of these groups migrated and or are simply related to people in South and Central Africa.